Guys, how is everybody doing? And welcome back to the Saw review series with my thoughts on Jigsaw or Saw 8. I don't know why they titled this one Jigsaw. Again, I do want to share a little memory on this movie, which is a very strange memory. If I'm gonna be honest, this was actually the second Saw movie that I ever watched. Now, I told my story on the first Saw with my review. If you have not seen that, please do yourself a favor and watch it. If not, then you're a poser. I'm joking. But Saw was one of those movies that it kind of frightened me on the premise. Not the movie itself, but the premise of the film where because to me, Saw was one of those movies where I felt could actually happen to me, where you can get kidnapped, wake up not knowing where the hell you are, and having to play this sick, twisted game. And I always was kind of scared by Saw in a way. And then my stepdad, who is a huge Saw fan, and I'm very excited to watch Saw 10 with him, or Saw X. I'm gonna call it Saw X because it sounds cool. And he didn't buy this movie. He rented this movie from a little thing called Redbox. Yes, Redbox was a real thing before streaming took over our world. But he picked this movie up from Redbox. He was like, "Hey, I got Jigsaw. Want to watch it with me?" And I was like, sure, why not? Put it on." And I always remember liking this movie, but at the same time, I was like, oh god, this franchise kind of spooks me. Again, not because of the movies themselves, the premise of them. And also, like, the traps always, like, kind of got to me because they were all gory and, like, ugh. But yeah, it's a little memory of Jigsaw, like how I always remember. And every time I remember rewatching this movie, it's because of my stepdad. Love you. Starting off with my positives on Jigsaw is the main star of the film, and that I do like seeing John Kramer back as Jigsaw again, where this whole movie is kind of like a detective story, where you're like, is Jigsaw dead? Did he really die? And I'm kind of sitting here at the same time, like, yeah, he did die. Have you seen the beginning of Saw 4, by the way? Like, everybody in this movie is like, oh, I don't know if Jigsaw's dead. Is he really dead? Yeah, have you seen the beginning of Saw 4? Anyways, but it was nice to see Tobin Bell come back as his role as John Kramer to where he actually has a part in it. It's not in a flashback or anything. It's him where he's actually on screen performing, not in a flashback, but in like real life events going on. I did like seeing John Kramer coming back. I love Tobin Bell in the role. I just love this character. I don't love the character, but I love seeing this character. He's always been the kind of the main star of this franchise, and every time I rewatch these movies, I always want to rewatch them just because of Tobin Bell's performance. It's himself. It was nice seeing Tobin Bell come back as Jigsaw, and I'm very excited to see what they do with him in Saw X. Why do I keep bringing that movie up? I really like the traps in this movie. The Saw movies have always been known for their traps. They've always been known for how sick and twisted and manipulated they are. And the traps in this movie were unsurprisingly good. They were all good. They all had their times to shine. I think my favorite trap was when it had to do with lasers, and then when it came down and cut this guy's like head in half. God, what is going on with my nose? And then it kind of like looks like a beautiful flower. I'm going to hell, aren't I? Anyways, I did like that trap. That was a pretty gnarly kill, by the way, too. And I thought the first trap that we get here with like the like saws on like the wall with all the characters like having to wear buckets and having to cut themselves to get loose and stuff like that. Like that trap is just like, all right, let's see what they can do with Saw again. And they delivered on the traps. I do feel that the first the other two traps where it had to do with chains where they're getting pulled up, they're getting raised up in the sky. It's just like, so is this movie gonna do just chains? But no, they don't, and that's good. I'd rather not watch a Saw movie where all the traps have to deal with chains. That would kind of be boring. For my final positive is that I thought the gore in this movie was really good. The gore in this movie was fantastic. There's very little CGI for what I could see, but they did use a lot of CGI, which kind of pisses me off. But it wasn't very noticeable. But I do feel that the gore in this movie was really good. My favorite gore scene in this movie had to do with like one of the traps where this like spinny thingy where it had to do with like a bike and then it cut the guy's like skin off and then it like pushed him out. You could see like some of it, but you didn't really get to see all of it. But we what we did get to see was pretty gnarly and gory. And my other favorite was when the guy had to pull a lever to free his leg, but it actually had to cut off his leg, and then it made his leg kind of look like sushi for some reason. I have a weird imagination, don't I? But it just made his leg look like sushi. and it looked like it was a little bit of CGI and a little bit of practical, but you could definitely tell. But what I did see from the practical side of this movie, it was pretty good. Mixed aspects, and that is the twist of this movie. And it's kind of a shame that's in my mixed aspects and not a positive, because these movies have always been known for having great twists at the end of their movie. But I do like one side of it where we find out that this entire game that we've been watching was actually like a decade ago. Or like the early 2000s, because as we find out that one of the characters helped John, like, was his first apprentice. But the first twist is that this game that we've been watching actually took place like years ago, and the game going on in modern day was the same exact game that Jigsaw's Apprentice set up, just to make it look like there's another game going on, where the filmmakers and the writers kind of mess with your mind. I really like that. That was a clever choice. But the other twist has to do with the apprentice, where we find out that this Moore guy is a apprentice of Jigsaw, and apparently was the first apprentice of Jigsaw. So you're meaning to tell me that this guy was the first ever Jigsaw apprentice. We heard nothing about him. We've never heard him being mentioned in this franchise. We've never seen anybody talk about him. So you're meaning to tell me that this guy was here before Hoffman, Amanda, whoever the hell else, I guess? Like, you're meaning to tell me that this guy showed up before Amanda and Hoffman? I do not believe that. And Gordon? You're meaning to tell me that this guy showed up before Gordon? I don't believe that. Because I feel they were like, oh, we need to add a twist here. We need to make it look like that we need to make this movie modern. But Jigsaw's dead. What are we gonna do? Oh, let's just throw this random ass guy that we don't know. That's the best you can do? That is the best that you are able to do? If anything, don't set this movie in modern day. Set it back like 10 years ago at the beginning. This movie would have worked much better if it was just not in modern day. It took place 2 decades ago, like the trap that we've been watching does. This movie would have been so much better if it was that and not set in modern day, to where we have to find out, oh, this guy was a Jigsaw apprentice, when we've learned nothing about him in this entire franchise. Moving on to my negatives, and this is just me being a Saw geek, and it's always bothered me every time I rewatch this movie. Now, I will admit this fully. The lighting in this movie, I do agree. This is the best looking Saw movie. This is the clearest looking Saw movie. This is the best looking Saw movie. But that's my issue. It doesn't look like a Saw movie. It does not feel like Saw. When I watch a Saw movie, I want the movie to make me feel I'm watching a Saw movie, not this clear, colorful looking movie. That is not Saw to me. No, I understand if you like the lighting, I understand if you enjoy it for what this movie looks like, but coming as a Saw geek and a Saw fan, it just doesn't look like a Saw movie. Just did not care for any of these characters, especially this one girl, where we find out that apparently her husband accidentally rolled over and suffocated their child. We find out later in the movie that the reason she's in this trap is because her baby wouldn't stop crying, and she wasn't getting along with her husband, so she fucking smothered her baby to death, planted the fucking body next to her husband, and blamed the murder on her fucking husband. And then if that wasn't bad enough, the motherfucker hanged himself out of guilt. This lady was fucked up. And I wanted to see her die. And I'm so glad that that shotgun came back and shot her right in the fucking face. Because that bitch got what she fucking deserved. Like, look, I am not a father. I don't have my own children yet. But I have 3 sisters that I love and care for. And if any of them got hurt like that, if anybody harmed them like that, I would hurt that person horribly. I'm just gonna say now, I would not be nice to that person. Other than that, none of these other characters I just didn't find interesting, especially the one dude that ends up being the final survivor at the end of this game. He was kind of just a dick, and he just didn't care about anyone else. But to me, this guy who was a gigantic asshole throughout the movie was the best character out of the other two, because we just get this black guy that we don't even know about. But compared to the chick, he was like, up here compared to her, I just wanted to see this bitch die. And I, for some reason, wanted to see the other guys live and just see her fucking perish. Think any of this detective stuff was very interesting where we've gotten that stuff before, but in this movie, it's just like this entire movie is basically what we've already seen before. Again, like I said, we've seen it before, like I said, but that's in a bad way. We've seen this before in this entire franchise where detective stuff is like, oh, we need to find out who Jigsaw is. Where's Jigsaw? Why is he doing this? Where's the game taking place? It's like, dude, we've seen this before. We've seen this done like 100 times throughout this entire franchise. You're giving us nothing new. All in all, guys, I enjoy Jigsaw. I feel it's a good opening to the franchise. I really enjoy this kind of reboot to this franchise. I really enjoy Jigsaw. So, if you are a fan of the Saw franchise, I do see you enjoying Jigsaw, but it does have its flaws. I feel you will have issues with it, but if you are a hardcore Saw fan, it might not work for you. But coming from me, I would say go ahead and stream Jigsaw. You guys think of Jigsaw? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you like Jigsaw? Do you not like it? Let me know in the comments below and we will talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you loved it, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you will get notified for my latest videos. And also, please share this video so it can go viral and other people can find my channel. That would help out my channel I would very appreciate that. And of course, until my next video, I'll see you next time.